Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for attending the webinar today. I would like to introduce IDR, Madam Lilia De Jesus, the head of APSDA Education Department, as our moderator today, and Catherine as the APSDA Education Policy Committee as our co-moderator today to take over the floor. So please, Madam Lilia and Catherine.
Okay, thank you, Pei. And I hope everyone can hear me. Am I coming good with my sound? Hello?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, so good afternoon, or rather wherever you are in this part of the region or continent, let us greet you a warm good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Let me acknowledge properly the countries that participated in this event. We have participants from India, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Nepal, Malaysia, Israel, Qatar. Thank you and a big hand for your participation and interest in this webinar. Today, we are going to listen to a talk that will broaden our knowledge about healthy interiors. A very important direction nowadays due to the many external conditions that affect us physically, mentally, and psychology, whether at home or in the workplace. And we need to really live a very healthy life. And in this talk that we are going to listen will give us somehow insights, okay, into the future of our health and well-being in order to live a happy and well-balanced life. Just some few reminders to everyone. Please put your audio into silent mode while the talk is going on. For those who may have questions later, to kindly type them in the chat box to be read by my co-moderator, Ms. Kat. For those who may wish to ask live questions, kindly raise your hand by clicking the hand icon to be properly acknowledged by our secretariat. Moving forward, let me introduce someone who is currently at the helm of APSDA, who is an architect by training and multidisciplinary designer by profession. He is a celebrated award-winning designer, founder of Nota Design Group, a three-term president of the Society of Interior Designers, Singapore, or SIDS, named as one of Asia's top designer in Singapore Design Awards 2014, and as Designers of the Year 2016-2017 from the famed Interior Design magazine. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Professor Kit Ong, President of APSDA, to give the opening remark. Prof. Kit Ong, you may now have the virtual floor.
Thank you, Lilia, for the introduction. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to everyone. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to attend our APSDA webinar series organized by our Professional Practice Department. APSDA is the acronym for Asia Pacific Space Designers Association. We are the gathering of national level design associations from Asia, including the Oceania region. Currently, we have 14 full members that are from 13 different countries and territories, and they are in alphabetical order: Australia, Hong Kong, India, Indonesia, Japan, Macau, Malaysia, Nepal, Philippines, Singapore, Taiwan, Thailand, and South Korea. APSDA inspires to nurture a better understanding of the different Asia-Pacific regional cultures and encourage the exchange of interior design information and knowledge between its members for the advancement of this field to benefit regional societies at large. Under APSDA, we have different departments from professional development, education, awards and competitions, editorial and outreach, membership, and industry relations to develop and oversee the programs under the organization. As the pandemic progresses into an endemic stage for many countries, I would say that the silver lining that emerges is that we are all now more receptive and accustomed of technology and online communications now. So otherwise, we wouldn't have this opportunity now to gather here for this webinar in the first place. I'm happy to see the high volumes of participation for this webinar and really hope everyone can enjoy soaking in the knowledge. Today, we put the spotlight on technology and healthcare facility. And we are fortunate to have a specialist in this field, also a good friend of mine, Mr. Nicholas Merrill-Smith from Singapore, to be with us and to give us an insight into the topic. Without further ado, I'll leave my good colleague, Madam Lilia from Philippines to further introduce our distinguished speaker. Last but not least, I would like to borrow the words from Professor Arthur Heady, quote unquote, all knowledge is connected to all knowledge is connected to all other knowledge. The fun is in making the connections. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Kit, for that opening remarks. Now to get into our next part of the program, may I call my co-moderator, Kat Correa, to introduce our guest speaker this afternoon. Kat, you may now take the virtual floor.
Thank you, Madam Lilia. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Our speaker for today is one of a group of designers who have chosen to make Singapore their home. Born in the United Kingdom, he studied three-dimensional design, worked as a set designer in television and a designer of commercial interiors before arriving in Singapore in 1993. He is the principal of Merrill-Smith Design Partnership, which he established in 2015. In a career that spans over 30 years, he has held a number of industry posts. These include the Interior Design Confederation Singapore Presidency, where he also chaired the successful conference Design Value Beyond the Tangible. He previously served on the Council of the Society of Interior Designers Singapore and is currently one of 6 advisors to the society. He is known within the architectural community for promoting design as an influencer of behavioral change. His work is predominantly in the healthcare sector, where workplace transformation and patient advocacy provide opportunities to bring about positive change through design. His extensive portfolio shows a willingness to design from the front and manage stakeholders to bring about enduring solutions. He continues to research and develop solutions to bring about positive change in the workplace, customer service, and patient care. These solutions foster change by delivering memorable experiences which empower healthcare workers and patients alike. He also holds a master's degree in design from the United Kingdom, a member of Cornet Global Singapore chapter, and a fellow of the Society of Interior Designers Singapore. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I am proud to introduce all of you to Mr. Nicholas Merrill-Smith.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, APSDA, for inviting me, and thank you for the kind words of the moderator and the introduction by Kit Ong. Let me share my screen and we can get started. So, hold on a sec. Okay, thank you very much. So good afternoon. The subject of the healthy interiors has been gaining ground for some time, and but I want to leave behind the conversation constructing our creations using suitable materials and low VOC adhesives and things to look at the bigger picture driving change and the opportunities that may present for designers. My presentation focuses on three core elements, which is health and well-being, lifestyle, and workplace. We look at how these three elements are connected, and we'll take a deep dive to explore where they present new opportunities for designers. I'll start with an overview of the healthcare and what's really driving the healthcare system and the changes that we see, particularly in more advanced economies, particularly somewhere like Singapore. So healthcare is very much in transition. The emphasis of future healthcare systems is to prevent or delay the burden of chronic disease by partnering individual users, communities, and organizations as new technology becomes widespread and trusted. Policy is driving this worldwide because caring for the sick, particularly an aging population, is unsustainable. For instance, in Singapore, we have new legislation which now empowers healthcare service providers to bring their services to the home instead of being bound to the bricks and mortar clinic. Previously, if you want to operate a medical practice in Singapore, you'd need to have a licensed premises to operate from. So that's a very, very different take. And it's so that we can bring these services into the home and we can use digital services too. So that's transforming healthcare over the next 5 to 10 years in Singapore. So the objective is to transform healthcare from a collection of hospital-based systems that care for the sick to a healthcare system that supports and empowers the individual. But what's at the heart of healthcare transformation? It's an understanding that we can do much better job by preventing disease. The population enters the system much earlier and they remain in the system, which doesn't depend on the user being sick. So we call this cradle to grave. And in fact, in somewhere like the UK, they've been doing this since the 1950s. Obviously, it's a slightly different system to other economies, but anyway. So if you bear that in mind, cradle to grave, you're basically in the healthcare system from the moment you're born through to the moment that you die, but you don't necessarily have to be sick to be part of the system. The user generates and owns their own health data. This is what's happening now. And this happens through wearables and other emerging technologies, such as genetic testing, which can allow us to identify if somebody's predisposed to a particular disease like breast cancer. So we can test for breast cancer, we can test for other diseases too. Healthcare professionals are consulted as partners in the future or as we go forwards. They advise and plan a path for the user based on the data provided as they move through life's various stages. The system is designed to prevent or delay the onset of chronic diseases such as cancer, heart disease, these sorts of things that are expensive to treat and a burden on healthcare systems. Chronic disease management and treatment is developing rapidly. We see new technologies, we see the use of robotics, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, all gaining acceptance and replacing archaic systems of the past. So science fiction has become a reality. And there are loads of examples, but I won't share them with you, but you've got a picture of how they're on the screen, right? From Space Odyssey. I'll talk a bit about lifestyle because lifestyle is also changing pretty rapidly. So health and wellness are emerging as priorities for more and more people, transforming the way that we live from a focus on work at all costs to placing health and well-being at the center of our concerns. Ask a young person about work. They can't fathom working for another 40 to 50 years. But a US male retiring at 70 in 2020 enjoys on average 14.1 years of retirement if you reach 70 years old. Statistically, if you were born in the US in 2020 and graduated 22, you'll work for 48 years and enjoy 4.5 years in retirement before you die. Great, isn't it? It's better if you're a woman. If you're a female, you fare much better. I'll let you ponder on that while we ponder whether such policies and ideas are outdated. This is a reality now. We work until we die, right? So ask a young person about longevity also. This is another hot subject. And I also can't fathom living into their 80s and 90s and beyond. Yet life expectancy for somebody born in Singapore in 2022 is 83.9 years, so 84 years. That's on average. So women it's longer, and it's slightly shorter. That's if you're born today, not if you're born tomorrow. For many, lifestyle perceptions may have changed since COVID. So imagined and perceived lifestyles are driving decisions we make about our work life. For instance, during COVID, there was a huge rush to purchase properties outside of the city, which drove up demand and prices skyrocketed. So this desire to be remote and connected through technology continues to drive decisions for many people. So the great resignation that you hear about is real. It's a real problem for companies. We will place more emphasis on freedom and choice, where and how we live and how we want to work and be treated by our employers. So remote working as experienced during COVID brings into question the whole idea about travel and commute. Working from home has also had its fair share of challenges, and people really want the best of both worlds. They want the convenience of working from home, yet maintaining the social interaction of being in the workplace with work colleagues. People now see they really have the option of work-life balance. At least, I hope they do. Workplace. So the workplace is transforming also from a role-based model of employment, where the place and the job are fixed, to a skills-based model where there's much greater flexibility, teamwork and collaboration to leverage on capabilities of individuals and teams, much greater flexibility. So the name of the game is value creation, building organizations, workforces, and workplaces that allow individuals and teams to excel. This is being achieved by creating more effective environments for collaboration and teamwork. As mentioned, workplace transformation is being driven by people within the organization. But let's take a look at the main challenges employers face. People spend longer in education and enter the market later, staying with their employer for a shorter period of time. The average worker, again, I'll quote the US, now changes jobs 10 to 15 times in their career. Average employment in a job is just over 4 years. So agility and resilience are key now for people entering the workforce and developing a career. I recently watched my daughter graduate, and agility was the word that they used over and over again to express how future generations of graduates are going to have to go into the workplace. They need to be agile, flexible, and prepared for the future. So employers need to build this agility and resilience across their workforce. Otherwise, they face losing key employees. And I'm not just talking about Western organizations or multinationals. I'm talking about everybody, from the smallest company, local company, to the largest. People will just pack up and leave if we're not providing the right type of career for them. People are changing their employer, location, or role more readily to suit their lifestyle, family needs, and interests. So, post-COVID, Singapore has become a place for people to come and work. I mean, we've seen lots of people coming here, packing up from various centers and moving to Singapore because they see Singapore as a secure place, a safe place to work, a buzzing place, So people will go, not nowadays, not go where the work is, but go where they feel that their lifestyle can be fulfilled. So according to an article by Robert Walters in Asia, the 5 top reasons why professionals leave a company are limited growth opportunity, feeling underpaid, no longer challenged, feeling undervalued, and corporate culture no longer fits. So there's a general theme here. The employee feels they can contribute much more. So I talk about how this all balances, the life in the balance, I call it. So in my ideal world, health, well-being, lifestyle, and work are all in balance. In my selfish model, me is at the center. But seriously, as customers and patients drive digital healthcare, it makes me the point of care. So I become the key part of the puzzle. We push data to the healthcare system. For many of us have some experience of this prior to COVID. We use Fitbit, Apple Watch, maybe our Garmin, and other wearables to provide data to a central system. COVID then made it mandatory in many states for us to provide information continuously on our vaccine and our health status. National healthcare systems tracked where I had been and who I'd made contact with. So this paradigm shift took a matter of weeks, actually. This is important because we're beginning to understand that we can share our data in ways that we wouldn't share them before. So the pull factor is my lifestyle, how I spend my free time, my responsibilities outside of work, and what or who is important to me, particularly my loved ones and my family who I want to protect. So these pull factors influence the way I care about my health and my well-being, and the data that I'm prepared to share. I get vaccinated to protect myself and my family. I look after my health and my fitness so as not to burden my family members. I use my Apple Watch to track exercise, fitness level, sleep, even my oxygen levels during COVID. As I age, I will be sharing with my physician details of my diet, my weight, my vitals such as blood pressure, hopefully not too soon, and not much else. But Apple Watch already prepares me to share all these things, including symptoms. So if any of you got an Apple Watch and you've never looked at health symptoms, have a look and you can fill it up and send it to your physician. Yeah. Okay, so that's really what this circle looks like. So what does this give us in terms of opportunities? So let's take a look at some of these areas in a little bit more detail. So I love this slide. I mean, we've just launched this new James Webb telescope, right? And but this is a Hubble telescope image. But the world in 2022 is a chaotic place, just as it was in 13 billion years ago. But we have the technology to gaze back 13.5 billion years. That's what these telescopes do. They look back into the past. Yet, the future is really uncertain. We are facing cultural and political transition globally. Examples include polarized national views that led to Brexit and the recent US Senate reversal on climate change. These are just examples that we see across the news all the time. I'm sure that in your own neighborhoods, in your own nations and countries, you see the same things happening as well. It's just chaos. The fourth industrial revolution is accelerating and transforming developed and developing nations. I work a lot in the medical field, so I do a lot of research in the medical side, and it's at the forefront of this transformation. For example, test kits, medicines, medical supplies are all being delivered by drones in Rwanda and I believe Indonesia as well, where whilst robotic surgery is replacing traditional surgery in procedures that require precision, such as orthopedic surgery. I met a friend of mine the other day. He's had both knees replaced, and within a week he's walking. So that, it wasn't done by a surgeon; it was done by a robot. The robot performed the surgery, of course, with the surgeons watching on. It's just staggering what we can do. So there's an urgency for change, and as we see firsthand, the impact of climate change in global supply chain disruption. We see firsthand the impact of climate change and global supply chain disruption across the news. The net zero goal for 2050, set out in the Paris Accord, seems to be a very long way from being achieved. There's demand for action from stakeholders, from everybody that has a voice, and everybody has a voice now. So everybody's searching for answers. Organizations are being reborn, both corporates and healthcare. They're becoming agile to meet current and future challenges, responding to customers' actual needs rather than perceived needs dreamed up by the ill-informed. For example, moving from being a hospital that treats sick people to a healthcare partner that advises, encourages, and supports health and well-being across the community. Companies are pivoting to save their company because market conditions have changed. They're U-turning to save the planet or the human race because past processes are no longer sustainable. Business is turning its attention to the community, realizing the need to build relationships with community stakeholders to prosper. There are opportunities for designers here working with companies to enhance their brand, create new brands and offerings, and support communities. Organizations are transforming processes. They're introducing automation to reduce errors, readers, and fatigue, with a focus on safety, with a particular focus on safety and accuracy. Using augmented reality to support human actions, resulting in more predictable outcomes. So an example of augmented reality would be a doctor or a surgeon being able to project an image of an actual image of the patient's internal organs that they've scanned onto the patient's body, so they can see how to, how to make incisions and how to go in and move around the organs within the body. That's an example of something that's happening now in augmented reality. There was another great example somebody showed me of Pokemon Go is one, right? But another one is IKEA, about how you can imagine, how you can take a picture or take a video of your family sitting on a chair and then change the chair in front of you and see what it looks like. So this is augmented reality. Implementing organizational change to eradicate silos and encourage shared ownership of processes. So, if you look at many organizations, they're in silos, right? You got finance, marketing, HR, business development, whatever, right? But all these things are becoming merged, right? They don't want people to work in silos anymore. Technology creates opportunities for us too. So we're also developing partnerships, collaborating with external providers to transform processes. So in companies these days, you'll see a lot more not part-time workers, but contract workers, people that you wouldn't even know that they're not part of your organization if you're working for big MNC, until maybe you try and share a file with them and they say, I can't open the file. Then you realize they are actually a contract worker. Opportunities here, well, working with companies and providers to transform people and process. Repurpose spaces, buildings, facilities, creating new products and services. I think at the moment we're in a bit of a hole, right? Because the economy is not so good. If the economy was more buoyant, I think you would see a lot more of this happening. But at the moment, there's a lot of people sitting and waiting to see what to do next, because funds are tight. But if funds were awash, then you'd see a lot of changes already. So with those opportunities in mind, I'd like us to also think beyond aesthetics, right? So we're going to talk for the next 15 minutes about mental health, which is a really hot topic. In fact, it's such a hot topic that if you had opened the Straits Times today and read page 4, they were quoting a report by Mercer and Marsh that talked about how companies are not prioritizing mental health for their staff. Okay, and so this is really hot, and I've known about this for some time. So I'm going to share some of these ideas with you. So during COVID, we were woefully unprepared to deal with the mental health impact of COVID. However, recovery is set in, and our daily lives and well-being has somewhat returned to normal. Of course, unless you're in China, when it's still locked down every day. So a Lancet report released in October 2020 on the pandemic's global impact cited widespread panic and anxiety, depression, stigmatization, all resulting from the sudden death of friends, relatives, and colleagues, and the social exclusion of survivors. Lockdowns have led to physical isolation, closure of schools, untold effects on childhood development and well-being, and widespread job losses. Those that didn't lose their jobs were having to adapt to fundamental and rapid changes in operational models as employers adapted to the pandemic, implementing massive and fundamental changes, and these changes continue. As a result, employers are being challenged to adopt a much broader approach to environmental and sustainability policies to address mental well-being and health. But there's opportunities for designers to explore models of workplace design that address mental well-being and health. During COVID particularly, Singapore Inc. was focused on workforce resilience and adaptability. COVID-19 accelerated the use of technology to stay safe, learn and work, advancing Singapore's Smart Nation goals by 5 years. This impact included the potential for more diverse yet balanced workforce, a new focus on organizational health, flexible working and job redesign. Some of the challenges working in this new dynamic include being on more of the time, i.e. longer working hours, or not having any definition of your workday anymore. Distractions leading to increased stress. So this was most apparent when children were being asked to school from home. Importantly, Singapore was able to quickly introduce policies and safety measures that enabled children to return to school in the relative early days of the pandemic. So potential benefits of a hybrid working system include higher productivity. So let me explain hybrid working. By hybrid working, we mean you don't go to the office every day or all day. So you're working from somewhere else. So from home or from a satellite office. So by hybrid working, we mean exactly that, not always in the office. So what people look at is higher productivity, deep focus, time and cost savings by not traveling. I think this is very personal. I mean, if you ask somebody, they would be able to say that they feel more productive if they're not in the office sometimes. They're able to focus more, a deep focus if they're maybe somewhere else. Maybe for some people, they like a particular level of distraction, but not, total silence. For me, I like total silence, but I'm not like everybody. And the time and cost savings by not traveling. I mean, again, in somewhere like Singapore, you're probably paying $10 to $12 for your lunch as well, right? So it's like, if I've got to go into the office and have lunch and go out with my colleagues, all this is cost, and really the time saved traveling. Singapore, our commute is very simple, but I'm sure for a lot of you, commute can be an hour or more. Changes ahead for companies within the region, within regional footprints may include dispersed central functions. So if a company has offices, a central office, they are looking at how they can service clients in the region, right? So dispersing centralized functions to allow for greater continuity across cities and regions, mitigating travel where teams need to be close to customers. So previously, I think people, like if you were based in Singapore and you had a regional role, you would travel all over the region, but companies are looking at different ways of doing that. Besides technology and Zoom and Microsoft Teams, do we look at training people locally, setting up a new office, training people locally to service customers? So there's opportunities, real opportunities for things like that with designers. So there's opportunities for companies with regional offices and staff that travel extensively when they're looking for solutions that allow them to remain close to their customer base. Post-COVID, the impact on workplace continues with a focus on the hybrid working model. To continue to support, attract and engage knowledge workers, the workplace is enhanced to deliver the type of seamless and engaging experience that remote working cannot provide. So what can we build in our office that I can't give you at home? So I actually work from home. I've worked from home for 6 years. So I have a desk and I have a nice view out this side, my left-hand side, onto the street, my nice bright office. And I use my living room because nobody's here during the day. My kids are grown up, my wife is at work. I use a living room to watch my educational YouTube videos and other things. I mean, if I was watching this live today, I'll be sat in my living room watching it on my TV. So that's how I work. But how do you create these types of spaces for people in the office? So is it a hospitality type of experience? Anyway, I'll share another slide with you in a minute and show you how the office is changing, how the offices are changing, how the office is changing. So in June 2022, last month or month before, a survey conducted by CBRE report on the following things. The appetite for keeping employees at home is clearly waning. So people are returning to the office. Hybrid working models continue to be popular in 2022 with 44% of companies polled having policies to support hybrid working. So I've explained what hybrid working is already. Only 4% of companies polled continue to allow full-time work from home. So about a year ago, I made a similar presentation. At that time, a couple of the local banks had decided to allow people, I mean, maybe certain parts of their organization, to work from home permanently. But obviously that's apparently changed now. Now we're safe to go back to the office. Asian and Western companies diverge on these ideas about whether companies should have hybrid working. 49% of Asian companies have office first as a policy compared to 17% of non-Asian companies. And I think this is measured in Asia, so across Asia Pacific. So a US company with an office in Tokyo, for instance, they've probably got, they fall into this 17% of non-Asian companies. So just to repeat, office first for 49% of Asian companies. Opportunities for designers. Okay, I think this is really big actually. You can explore hybrid working models with local companies, with Asian companies. You can look at things like activity-based working and other examples, particularly with Asian clients, or with multinational offices that are serving Asia, right? Or they're based in your region. So let me share some slides with you. So this is a slide I stole from CBRE. Thank you, CBRE. I do subscribe, so maybe I'm allowed to share it. I'm not sure. But anyway, how are organizations responding? This slide shows the types of office space in use over a 5-year period. So we're looking at pre-pandemic, so 3 years ago, now, and what's happening in the next 2 years. So really what they're saying is that pre-pandemic, fixed seating, I'm going to the office, so I need somewhere to sit that belongs to me. Fixed seating was 58% of the primary office space, right? 18% was target mobility. In other words, some sort of space that people could use when they came to the office. 13% was hot desking. In other words, maybe you have a ratio of 3 or 5 to 1 people using that cluster of desks and you book it. And the 11% was activity-based working, where you would go to have a meeting in a meeting room, for instance. Or let's say we're making presentation boards, maybe we've got a studio space that's dedicated to cutting up materials and things like that, like we used to do in the old days. Now it's all digital. So going forwards, if you look at now, this was in June this year, right? The number of fixed seats has reduced from 58 to 28%. So these things are leveling out. There's an equal balance of fixed seating, target mobility, hot desking, activity-based working. And I think what we're seeing actually is a trend towards much more activity-based working. So if you look at the next 2 years, they predicted, and this is based on briefs that they're getting now for projects that are going to happen over the next 2 years, maybe. People are saying we don't need fixed desks anymore, right? We need more hot desking because for people to come in and work. We need target mobility. We need places like a Starbucks for people to come in and work and share their experiences and connect with people. And we need activity-based working. We need more meeting rooms, more spaces for collaboration, these types of spaces, right? So the office is changing. And I think if you go into, maybe if you go into an Asian office, it doesn't look like this, right? And maybe it should, because otherwise everybody's going to pack up and go and work for Google and Lazada or whatever else, right? So the workforce is changing. The workforce has different ideas about how they want to work. And if this is all unsuitable for somebody, I'm going to go and live in Vietnam if I'm young, and I'm going to sit on the beach and do my work, and I'm going to be a contract worker. So employers have got real challenges ahead. And I think I didn't want to talk about healthcare too much because healthcare is very niche, right? But offices are not. There's offices everywhere you look. And in fact, what I see in healthcare, and I digress a little bit from my slides, what I see in healthcare is agility and activity-based working, right? You don't see a nurse that has a desk in an office somewhere. I mean, maybe she does, maybe she shares it with somebody if she's senior enough. But when she comes in to a room with a patient in it, she has an iPad or a laptop and she's doing everything there and then. All the charts, they used to be at the end of the bed. Maybe they still are in some countries, but the charts aren't like that anymore. The charts are now on computers, right? And the patient's vital statistics are being fed to a system so that we don't have to go in and check the blood pressure, check heart rate, check all these things all the time. If you look at the way that other areas, I mean, I've been doing a cancer clinic recently, and in the cancer clinic, it's the same thing. The staff are continually mobile. They have multiple job roles, right? I mean, even if someone like a cashier in a medical center or a clinic, at the beginning of the day, they're directing people what to do. At the end of the day, they're taking money off of people and getting bills paid and really troubleshooting, right? So their roles are very, very different sets of skills, same people, and they might be in a different place to do that. Anyway, the aspect I want to focus on is human-centered organizational transformation to make businesses more agile. So during the pandemic, organizations responded well, demonstrating a high degree of agility and resilience in their workforce. And rather like a virus or a friendly COVID virus that we all well know so well, they organically adapted to threats. So, I mean, you've all seen this. Our businesses have changed. You know, your traditional way of, you know, maybe you had a restaurant before and then you convert 3/4 of it to pick up for Grab drivers so that they can come, and you increase your kitchen size or prep area so that you can put out more meals. Grab drivers can come and pick it up. You don't need restaurant seating. People aren't allowed to come and dine there. And that's what we mean by this idea of switching, you know. Anyway, our healthcare system is a great example of agile working. I've given you some examples of that. And it's likely that our offices will evolve to support collaboration of a nature and scale that cannot be done remotely. So this requires less on-site space and more companies enabling remote working. Ultimately, employee experience is the key driver, key driver for the future office, or the future of the office. So employee experience, not only that, but customer experience, but get the employee experience right, customer experience will follow. These are some of the things, if you talk to HR professionals, HR is human resource. They're the people that organize the contracts of employment, how they have a budget to spend on behalf of the company for certain aspects, right, of taking care of the workforce. Studies show our physical and social environment is number one. Okay, let me read this again. Studies show our physical and social environment is the number one determinant of our health, more important than genetics or access to health. Companies are being encouraged to develop strategies to support employee health. So what this report I read was saying was, where you work, the environment that you work in, and the social environment that you belong in, right, or subscribe to, is much more important to our health than whether you've got family history of disease, of a certain disease, because those things affect the level of stress and all these other things that have such an impact on our health. So what we're seeing now, actually, companies at large organizations are appointing what they call the chief wellness officer. And this can be a medical professional, actually, or they can embed a clinic or something in their office or in their organization. So they're showing physical support from the management to make health and wellness a part of the overall company culture. Companies are encouraged to develop strategies to support employee health, which builds resilience and agility in their workforce. Some key takeaways for companies include developing a comprehensive strategy to support employee health, considering a human-centered design approach, and putting yourself in your employee's shoes to create a seamless process for them to navigate your programs. And the bottom line, direct benefits and positive financial impact for employees. So a lot of organizations are using, a lot of HR professionals in global companies and organizations globally using a model which is this wellness circle. So companies are using this holistic circle of wellness to guide them in developing comprehensive strategies to support employee well-being. So you can see there from the bottom, occupational, intellectual, social, emotional, physical, financial, spiritual. These are the elements that they think, or these are the parts of the organization outside of their job, if you like, that they want the employees to participate in. And so by offering these services and facilities, they're building resilience in their workforce. So I'll focus on a few, right, just so that you understand what really they're talking about. And I think, again, this has opportunities for designers, right? If designers understand these current concerns of employees and things that are happening, you know, you can next time you take a brief from a corporate employer, you can say, well, HR needs to be part of this discussion about how many seats you need, because these things are important, right? So we talk about physical well-being. So they're giving employees guidance on exercise, diet, and rest through screening. So again, your apps, right? Your apps are your HR. There's maybe somebody in HR that's looking at the information that you're providing through your Apple Watch or whatever, and say, hey, you're not getting enough sleep. What are you doing at night, right? Or you know, you need to up your exercise, or is there more that we can do? Is there more that we can provide in our organization that will help you with your diet, will help you with your exercise? I mean, a classic case was I went to see a European company, right? And they had a canteen, right? But the canteen wasn't. The canteen was all healthy food. I mean, it was like, you know, you probably couldn't get a burger, right? You'd have to. Or fried chicken, you'd have to take something healthy. So, and I think they made it free, right? So if you want people to eat healthy food and to look after their health and well-being, you can provide these things for free. I mean, free. I don't know how it's done free, but yeah. They're also looking at screening, health screening, preventative care, and positive life change, and helping people with positive life changes. So, for instance, what happens when your family comes along, or your first child? How do we celebrate that in the organization? How do we help you manage that? Emotional is experiences such as joy and enthusiasm for life and for work. I mean, you know, you walk into a workplace, everybody looks like, you know, the world ended yesterday or overnight, but actually it should be a great place to work, right? How do we create these great experiences for people in the workplace? How do we make a workplace that people say, I really want to be here, I really feel this feels great, I can communicate well in here, and I don't feel so stressed. But we'll talk about some of those things later on. Social opportunities to connect with others in ways that bring mutual respect, support, and fulfillment. So examples were, maybe you support a charity and you go out as a group to do things, or maybe you've got, maybe you bring a kindergarten into your office space, right? Something, you know, maybe there are things that you can do, social opportunities. So they don't necessarily have to be in the office, they can be outside of the office, or they can be within the community. Spiritual, experiencing meaning and purpose, being part of something larger than yourself. So I'm not sure how you create that within an office space. But I mean, obviously, if you provide facilities that can be used for prayer or for other things, you know, for study groups that maybe are looking at certain religious practices and things, maybe that will help. Spiritual can also be things like providing a reading corner or something else, right? Financial is understanding and managing finances to meet your goals. So rather than complaining you're not being paid enough, right? Can we have a look at can we help you perhaps look at your spending and areas where we can help you with that? Like, for instance, why don't you use our canteen? It's free, right? Why don't you use our gym? It's free. We can provide things for you, or we can support you in some of these goals. If we say we want to improve your emotional and physical well-being, then perhaps one of your goals should be to be a member of a gym, and maybe we can help you with that in some way. Maybe we've got partners that do that. You know, so it's about creating experiences of success and abundance as well, and opportunities for giving to yourself and to others. Work-life resources. Sorry, hold on a minute. The people are providing programs. Maybe I've covered some of this, but work-life resources, flexible schedules, innovation programming, on-site clinics and wellness services, health summits, training leaders in health matters, community support and collaborations. Anyway, I think you get the idea, right? If you walk into an organization now or in the future, because designers, we're going to change things, right? It should feel very, very different. Very, very different. And it doesn't have to be a Western organization, a multinational to feel different, right? We start ground up. Our recommendations, let's have a look. Let's have a look at ways we can suggest designers can contribute to our mental well-being and health by thinking beyond aesthetics. So let's see what sort of design interventions we should be looking at, right? So ways in which designers can contribute positively to this, you know, through a design team. So what are the this is an agenda. I'm going to cover these things. So recommendations for design teams, designers' roles in supporting mental well-being, design interventions to encourage and support our mental well-being and health, design elements to support mental well-being and health, and future workplace models. So I'm just going to focus on this for a little while, and then we'll be done after that. So a few more slides to go. So the first thing is design intervention. So at Merrow Smith Design Partnership, we've developed a collaborative process which brings together experts from different disciplines outside of our industry. And this helps us to frame the brief differently. So my recommendations for design teams would be to review your design process. Is it appropriate for the client that you're talking to, for the project? Is it appropriate for new ways of working, the ways we work and the ways our clients expect us to work? Who do you need on your team to be able to lead the client in uncharted waters? So some of these ideas are going to be a real hard sell. So, you know, is it you as the designer that, you know, I read a report that says this? Is your client going to believe you? Or is it a case of bringing in a health expert and saying, let's have a listen to what Dr. Z has got to say about this, right? So who should be in your team? Commission your own research, gather input and contributions from a broad range of sources. So, I mean, not only so that you can quote these things to clients, but also so that you begin to formulate an idea of what's really important to you. The reason why I spend time in the healthcare sector is because, partly because I'm good at it, but because I really enjoy working with, I would say, difficult stakeholders, right? People that have their own idea about things, and you're trying to encourage them to work together and create something, an amazing experience for everybody, and that's great. you need to form an expert opinion backed by sound fundamentals, and that's where the research comes in. So rather than just plowing through design ideas and say, you know, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? Really, what's driving the design process? How might we design in a way that encourages and supports mental health and well-being? We can facilitate the design process. So just now we've mentioned design thinking roles, right? So I believe in Singapore, if you're in the public sector and you're fairly, even a moderate position, you'd have been sent on a design thinking course, right? To understand what is design thinking. If you're involved in change within your organization, you'll know about design thinking. And yeah, so facilitate the design process. So if you say to people, we're gonna, you know, I don't need a written brief from you. I need to sit down with your key people or even your people on the ground and talk to them about what they'd like to see and do, right? Some companies are already doing this. I mean, I have a project starting soon and the client has already formed a working group to discuss some of these things. I mean, I've sent them some examples, some things to read, right? And the response to that is, okay, let us understand what we really want first before we talk to the designer about how it's going to be done, right? Because they're very good at doing that. Clients can be very good at understanding what they want, but they're not very good at, they need a designer to bring it out, to show them, to demonstrate and to build it. Yeah, the design process is more design thinking. UX-based, so it's more of a UX-based model that I use and a lot of people are beginning to use, which relies on a more strategic way of looking at the problems that we're being asked to solve. However, interior design skills will be required to conceptualize, deliver, and build suitable environments, which is what I just mentioned. So key points to consider: observe and understand behavior. So this is a people picture here of people skydiving, right? You know, understand risk-taking and shortcuts that may undo the quest for a safer, healthier workplace. I see this all the time as well. Somebody will say, why don't we do it this way? And if that's the most senior person in an organization, you're all in trouble, right? So again, the role of the designer is to be able to challenge these the key person, say, well, actually, I've spoken to, or I've seen, or we've done this and this really worked well, or actually, have you asked your staff about that? Is that really what they want? My client was saying, I want to build a gym in my office. And I said, have you asked your staff if that's what they want? Okay. Maybe they want vending machines or something else, right? But I mean, anyway, so I digress. But you need to have the courage to ask your client whether what they are talking about has been properly researched. Our design skills and knowledge to influence behavior by programming space. Okay, we use our design skills and knowledge to influence behavior by programming space so people within it make the right choices. So for instance, let's say that everybody goes for a lunch break. Everybody, before they go for lunch, they go and use the bathroom, right? And I've got a free canteen, I want everybody to use my free canteen of healthy food. Then I make people walk through the canteen to go to the toilet. That's what I mean by to use the bathroom, right? That's what I mean by programming space so that people within it can make the right choices. How do we program space to make sure that we are getting the output from people that we really want? If the office door, if the exit door is right next to the toilet, then everybody's going to go to the coffee shop, right? Anyway, looking for opportunities to create experiences that reward appropriate behavior. And again, so an opportunity to create an experience would be, hey, hi, you have the chef standing at the door on the way out. So as the person's gone to the toilet, walking through the canteen back to take the lift, take the elevator down and go to the coffee shop, the chef is there saying, did you enjoy your meal, right? And actually you haven't had your meal. So, oh, why didn't you just try one of these? And it's like being in a hotel where somebody comes up to you and gives you the petit fours and saying, have you tried our new creation, right? I mean, What sort of experience do we need to provide for people in the workplace? How might we design interventions that encourage and support mental well-being and health? I'd encourage you to shine a light on the power of place. There's a photograph here of somebody playing a guitar, right? But the idea really that you celebrate certain things in the office, you really make them pop, make them obvious to people. Yeah, whether you do it through signage or by placemaking or whatever else, if you want people to use the facilities, that particular facilities, and then make it happen. You know, not only build it, but introduce people to it. Use it, put on events there, make sure people are using it. And that goes for the whole office space, right? If we build the office space in a fantastic way that people want to return to it, and when they come back, they're not disappointed, they can do all those things they want to be able to do and more, right? It'll give people confidence in the place. They need to know it's safe too, and it's safely managed. So it's being kept clean, right? That the air conditioning is working, that yeah, it's safe to use. And make the invisible visible. So you can measure the impact of air quality, lighting, acoustics, activity, space utilization, and share these things on share the performance data. Now, I'm not saying that you need a Class A office building to be able to do that, right? I mean, it's probably very easy these days to have a dashboard that tells us what the temperature is in our office today, and suggestions on whether we should open a window, draw the blinds, change seats. You know, what is it? What is the intervention that we need to make? So these solutions, I mean, can we expand our horizons as designers of interiors and say, okay, we're going to create this wonderful space for you, but in order for people to use it, we've got this application that tells everybody when they come into the office, whether the meeting rooms are free, whether what time my colleague is going to be in, whether the appointment has been changed, all this type of thing. This data can be put in the hands of the occupants using available technologies. Adjust the environment until the behavior of the occupants is what you want or need. This idea of trying to be more flexible with the office space. So you use furniture to manage behavior. Maybe we did some work for an engineering company. We would come in on the Monday morning and they moved all the desks around because that's the way they worked, right? They were engineers, and we were using a Herman Miller system. This is back in the UK, that you need an Allen key and a screwdriver. I think you just need an Allen key, a socket spanner to dismantle all the partitions and put it all back together again. And that's what they would do. We would come in and they built a new team because they're working on a new project. So designers can do that, and we don't. I don't think we do enough of this. We design the space and we walk away and thank you very much. Maybe we go back in 6 months' time and ask, is everything okay, right? But how can we be part of more? How can we be more? How can we do more, much more? So we can use furniture to manage behavior. We can use lighting, air conditioning, acoustics. We can build prototypes, evaluate and reiterate. So again, this is this UX concept. We don't really, maybe we do build an office that can be changed all the time. And I think during COVID, a lot of companies will look at this type of thing, right? And they would bring in pilot groups to try out the new offices. I think certainly Standard Chartered Bank and a few others did that during COVID. Allow for change and adaptation. And then measure outcomes, learn and share. So as the thing you built, is it working? Does it work for the occupants? So here's some of the low-hanging fruit, some things I've sort of touched on, but these are simple things that designers can do without asking the boss if you got it right? So one is materials, obviously minimize the effect of air quality, on air quality by selecting and specifying appropriate materials that are low in VOC, formaldehyde-free, etc. So you can do this by putting it into your specifications. Very simple. No more tiger glue. You can put it in bold there. No, no more petroleum-based products. No more. Anyway, whatever. Portable water quality. Install zip taps and filtered water to deliver health benefits. So some of these water systems have filters or ionizers and things inside that have to deliver measured health benefits for people. You can play with lighting and color temperature. So I think some of you, maybe if you work in healthcare, you would know about this, but circadian rhythm, which is the idea that the light changes color during the day and it affects whether we're awake or asleep, it affects our activity levels, our hormones. So you can use a light in an office space to change these things. And nowadays with LED, there's no excuse actually, because you can have your RGB lighting, red, green, blue lighting, and you can flood a bit of color into a space. So let's say you've got a particular room, a quiet room or something that you want people to use in one of the ways that we've described. And maybe in that room, you can change the colors. You can change from warm to cool. Let's say you want to do an interview with somebody, a welcome interview with somebody, welcome to our organization, maybe you have the colors warm. Maybe you're doing an exit interview and you want a different type of environment, so maybe you change the colors. Anyway, these are ideas, right? Lighting, temperature. Movement, so help people be more, I mean, when we talk about agile, we don't mean physically agile, but help people to be more active in the workplace. We do this by placing things like the toilets on the far side of the restaurant, right? Or the far side of the pantry, so that people have got to go through the cafeteria, in order to get to the bathroom. You might do things like locate printers and copiers or storage systems in places that are not embedded in the desk areas or the workplaces, so that people need to go to walk to the photocopier and printer, so they get some exercise, right? You make corridors nice and wide, so that people can interact in these corridors. So these are these sorts of things that happen for a long time already. You can use different types of seating and working, so sit-stand desks, different types of seating, different seating arrangements as well. And the idea of biophilia, so introducing greenery and diffuse green light through plants. So this is catching on. I read somewhere, and guys, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem to matter whether the plant is real or fake, as long as it has this effect of greening the office environment and allowing green light, really, or green light to be seen, right? Then it's really, really helping. And you can also orientate things so that people have views to the outdoors, to blue skies or to green space. So don't put all the managers along the windows. Don't put the conference rooms on the windows. Put them on the inside where maybe people aren't using them so much, so that people in the workplace, people using the spaces all the time, have daylight pouring into the office space. So give people views. And actually, not only views of outside, but internal views. So create views and layers in the office space, so that maybe you've got a focus on a space that's really attractive, but maybe it's not outdoors at all. And then the last few, nearly there, let's close by having a look at some future strategies concerning workplace models. So these are models. By models, I mean the type of offices that people might build in the future. So what might the dominant workplace model be? Companies need to organize workplace to encourage resilience and support an adaptable yet diverse workforce. So creating a sense of place and quality space to provide appropriate user experience becomes crucial to transforming the culture of the company. So solutions will support the employer's operational requirements and may include these sorts of models. So top left, I show like a studio concept where the overall space is broken down into smaller team units for groups to occupy for extended periods. So maybe it's for a project, a team might use a facility 1 week on, 1 week off. They might use it for 6 weeks and then go back to working how they're normally working. Top right is hub concepts. So this provides what can't be provided in the home environment. So larger spaces for collaboration and experimentation, meetings and informal exchanges of ideas. Deep focus and quiet thinking might be performed at home, but it might be performed in an annex space or another office that you got somewhere else, or agility models supports office workers on the go. So it's akin to a satellite hot desk office, or maybe a co-working space, or maybe a Starbucks, right? In addition to, oh no, Starbucks is later, sorry. So like a co-working space somewhere you drop in and touch base with people. In addition to hot desks, they incorporate phone booths, pods, so that you can have maybe a one-on-one meeting or use a bigger screen for your Zoom meetings, and informal and formal meeting spaces. And then the last one is a community node, which is to support work from home employees or workers in decentralized locations. So this is something that an employer, an organization would build for employers to use, right? So rather than spend your whole day at home, you've got somewhere else that you can go to. So it'd be like having a working session or a meeting at Starbucks or something. Maybe these are suburban co-working spaces that can fulfill this need. So generally what we see is a network of decentralized or scaled back HQs serving a specific region or place. So, companies, certainly as a result of COVID, companies are asking whether having everything in one office space is a great idea or whether we should decentralize. And technology also enables us to be more decentralized. There's pros and cons, right? So I think one of the things here, right, is that maybe cost alone might not be driving real estate decisions in the future. Real estate, cost per square foot, rental space, these things have been driving real estate decisions they've been at the top of the mind for real estate professionals for the last 10, 15 years, right? And putting everybody in one place works for that, right? You can consolidate everybody into one office, great, and we can maybe get a better price on the rent, right? Or we have less buildings to maintain. But people are rethinking that. And certainly in healthcare, decentralizing services is key to success. You would have, you're still going to have general hospitals, but what we see in somewhere like Singapore, right, is centers of excellence. So you've got your National Heart Center, your National Cancer Center, with separate buildings that perform these functions, right? So rather than trying to get everything in one building, it's different. So in addition to these concepts, companies may develop their own solutions to support a unique culture. And I think, if you're creative and you're strategic about your design career and your thoughts, then maybe you've got ideas that you can bring to companies too. So corporate culture remains a key to attract and retain talent. And I think as designers, we need to understand where corporate culture is heading. So in summary, I'll just conclude. In all that I've said, it's necessary to understand the dominant work culture in your place, right? So if you're in Indonesia, Malaysia, even maybe you're in a town somewhere, not a city center, you need to understand what is the work culture there, or the places where you work, or the places where you ply your trade. We need to change to facilitate work culture transformation. So we need to first make the office a safe place for everybody to work, which I think COVID obviously helps us a lot with that, but we can do more. We need to instill resilience and adaptability in the workforce. And to do that, we need to understand that companies don't just need you to talk about color schemes, carpets, office furniture. They need you to talk about their real concerns, the bigger concerns. Technology can empower people who have been appropriately coached or trained. However, we need to work together to deliver the user experience. So yes, you might have a client who has somebody that's been on a training course about user experience, and they know everything they need to know about facilitating a design session, right? But actually, at the end of the day, the designer is the one that can bring that to life, right? The designer is that one that is able to help the client to see what that looks like. I mean, both in terms of physically what it looks like, by rendering it, by drawing it, by imagining it, but also in terms of how this thing might work, right? In terms of diagrams and graphs and other ways. Moving forwards, our employers will be asked to take on more responsibility for mental health and well-being and the health of their employees. So there are big opportunities here, I think. Clearly, with research and the work that we do, we understand over the last 5 years that these things have really taken place. Experienced designers can be appropriate partners in organizational transformation, but you need to collaborate with experts to deliver really impactful solutions. I'll close really by telling you the way my team is structured, and this is for healthcare. So in my healthcare team, I have myself as a principal designer. I have a doctor that is healthcare trained, that is involved in healthcare technology. So she knows about the Internet of Things. She knows about sensors and all these things. So she understands the technology side of the healthcare business. I have another person who is a leadership coach on my team, and I have a third person who is a design guru on my team. So basically, what I do is I bring these people together to talk about healthcare spaces and how these three elements come together. And that's how I organize my healthcare teams. Not every project is like that, but ideally, I'd like every project to be like that. So thank you very much. I will show you my last slide. This is me. You can learn a little bit more about me here. I think it's my website. And I think we're going to invite questions. So thank you for listening. Hope it didn't take too long. About 50 minutes, I think, more than I was planning on it. So with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and hand back over to others. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much, Nicolas, for that wonderful presentation. And yes, I very much appreciate your presentation because it is very logical in a sense that it brought our attention to the realities and perils of our existence. And your talk offered somehow some interventions to maintain the balance, healthy balance in our lives. I know your concern is more on the mental health, okay? And you provided us very good interventions, talks that will make us realize that there are also measures in order that we can counter all these stresses that we encounter in our lives. Really very logical because you have presented from lifestyle, workplace transformation, and from the lifestyle, I also note down very important that since healthcare system supports and empower us, I realize that age truly correlates, or health truly correlates with health. And with that, of course, I think we have questions from the participants. Are you ready with that? Oh.
Yes, hi. Okay, that was indeed a very interesting and informative talk, Sir Nicholas. So what you have shared with us today is truly rich in information and inspiration. And I hope that this truly sets the value of putting importance in our health, well-being, and the workplace. So now we move on to our Q&A. For the Q&A, if you guys have any questions for Mr. Nicholas, please feel free to type it on the Q&A tab below. So we will do our best to read them out for you. While waiting for your questions, let us read first our questions from the panelists. Okay, so the first question, Mr. Nicholas, with the technology advancement and innovations in all aspects to improve life quality, do you think we have done enough on virus preventions and enable for a healthier environment free of viruses and infectious diseases? I think you are on mute.
Yeah, I'm on mute. Sorry, can you repeat that one? Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, so with the technology advancement and innovations in all aspects to improve life quality, do you think we have done enough on virus prevention and enable for a healthier environment free of viruses and infectious diseases? So because of the technology advancement and innovations, do you think we have done enough to somehow prevent viruses to spread
Okay.
for a healthier environment?
So the answer to that is
free of viruses. Yeah.
yeah. So the answer to that is no. I mean, I think these problems are here to stay. Actually, since COVID, everybody understands COVID was a pandemic and spread rapidly globally, right? People are now looking to see really was that a unique scenario, right? And I mean, for instance, they look at the coronavirus, and they are beginning to understand that coronavirus is present in lots of communities within Southeast Asia, because coronavirus is transmitted by bats, right? And we have people living very close to communities very close to bat colonies in places like Vietnam, I think they mentioned, and they mentioned some other places. So in answer to your question, no, I think what we're able to do probably is respond more rapidly, right? I mean, so many of the problems I think stem from the fact that we didn't really take COVID seriously, all right? So the World Health Organization, for instance, could have informed us much earlier. The Chinese could have informed us much earlier. And I mean, there'll be a witch hunt about this for many years to come. So, but I mean, essentially, if we had some way of saying, yes, we know this has got the potential to become a pandemic, then let's lock it down now, right? But I think technology, I mean, on a local level, maybe we have the technology to help us on a local level to fight disease better, to fight this type of virus better. But I think the problem of transmission through channels such as shipping, air travel, these types of things, border crossing, I think that's really, really tough. Yeah, especially in the case of a virus that you don't know, you don't even know whether you can't measure to see whether somebody's got it. You know, not at the moment anyway.
Right, I agree. Okay, thank you, Sir Nicholas. For the second question, hybrid is half online, half in person or face-to-face to many. So does it have favorable advantages to one's physical condition? And then follow up to this question, whereas working at home provide an opportunity or a brief of break and rest, which you cannot afford to do in the workplace. So the question is, isn't hybrid can be a bit economical for the employer in the long run because of less energy consumption? We just want to know your thoughts on this.
Yeah, funny that, isn't it? I was
Yeah.
reading about, I was watching the news, and somebody was talking about Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is in a very serious situation now because they're in the same, they're facing the same scenario as Sri Lanka, where they're running out of foreign currency, right? So what the government has asked people to do is work from home. All right. So that's the answer to your second question. Working from home is probably more economical because you consume less resources. I mean, I'm not sure whether that's strictly true. I mean, I have my air conditioning running here all day, right? Because I work from home. If I didn't work from home, I would save on the energy bill. Let's have a look at the first part of the question. From all the research I've read and from everything I've seen, the social isolation of work, the social isolation that people experience working from home is a problem for people. So people want to be more connected. So I think it's partly a choice that people have. In other words, I want to be able to go into the office and work and meet people face to face. And the office should be the best place to do that rather than the coffee shop or Starbucks, right? But at the same time, I value my privacy, right? So it's a challenge. Employers are, I think it depends on who you work for. A lot of employers, if they are in the sense local companies, I say in Singapore local companies, they want to see the employee there in the office. They want to be able to go around and count the head count, see people working. It's a mentality that that exists in local businesses, right? Whereas I think if you're a much flatter organization, then maybe you don't need to see that. So you see people's interaction in a different way. But I think one of the trends that we're seeing, and I didn't really mention this, one of the trends that we're seeing corporates taking is ways to monitor what their employees are doing when they're not in the, online. So you can measure people's keyboard strokes, you can see how much time they're working in the Zoom calls and things like that. And you can gather this data and you can analyze it, and you can see whether people need more coaching, or whether the behavior is what the behavior that you want, or does it follow the policies that you put in place? I hope that answers some of your questions. Energy consumption, I mean, to be honest, that's a difficult one. I mean, if you're building an office so that to attract people to it to go back and work, and it's not full all the time, and people only start drifting in at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, 11 o'clock in the morning, and you've been running the aircon since 8 o'clock, then it's not really efficient in the building. But I think one of the key things also is that if you, by asking people to stay at home and work, right, and by asking people to wear masks when they go out, what we saw is this was to prevent COVID, right? We saw the huge drop in people in seasonal flu, right? So seasonal flu dropped. By that I mean colds, viruses, right? Dropped by 90% during COVID. So people weren't getting the flu anymore. People weren't getting stomach upsets, runny noses, those things. Now, what normally happens, right, is that people will tar hand that and go to the office in that condition and spread those viruses within the office space, right? So because people working from home, you didn't have that. So these are part and parcel of when we come to policies on people are going to have about healthy offices. It's got to be, if you're sick, if you're unwell, stay at home, right? So, you don't, nowadays in Singapore, you used to have to go and get an MC, a medical certificate, and show it to your employer the day you went back into the office. And now I think you can do that online. You've got other ways of doing it. There's other technologies to prove that you are sick, so that you're off, so that you're not, seem to be skiving or taking a day off when you don't need it. Yeah. Thanks.
Right. It's also being considerate of the others.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, for the
people always abuse the system. So.
yeah. Okay, so for we have some questions here. Number one, how can we address gender barriers in making human-centered design?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this stems from policies, right? So, not sure. I'm not sure really where you're going with this. I mean, some businesses are there's an imbalance in business between men and women, right? So some departments might have more females, some departments have more males. I think I asked the last person I was working with what the split was between males and female, and they said it was about 50-50, right? So in my office, in the work I do, I never think about somebody, an employee, being a male or a female, except for in one scenario where we built a staircase in an office. So we cut through 2 levels and we built a staircase. And we built the staircase in a particular way that if you weren't wearing trousers, it was very unglamorous, right? So we'd already built the staircase, and we hadn't considered that there were females in the office, and that these females might be wearing dresses or skirts. So there was a policy by the management that actually females could wear trousers, right? But not everybody used the staircase. But if you want to encourage everybody to use a staircase, right, and make sure you build it in a way that is not unflattering to both sexes, right? So is that an example? I'm not sure. But anyway, I think it's policy. But generally speaking, I think as designers, maybe we shouldn't be doing that. I mean, it's certainly in most offices, large offices I've done, there's been nursing rooms for mothers, right? So that you have a space where mothers can bring and they can express milk, and they can keep milk safely in a fridge. So we have those sort of things embedded in the office space. Yeah, so I mean, it really depends on the requirements of the employer, but I think you can certainly ask. You can have a list of questions that you can ask the employer, your client. Are these things important to you? And if he says no, and they are important to you, then you say, well, ask him why not. Have you asked your staff? I mean, again, it comes down to this: how do you engage people during a briefing session? So I hope
Okay.
that
Thank you.
answers the question.
So we still have last
Two.
Three
I think we have to
questions?
consider 2. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we only have
That will be
to
the
consider 2
last
more.
2. Yes.
Okay. All right. So for the second one, do you think the trend on the hybrid working environment would have a permanent impact on office design? Is there an actual shift to this kind of office design?
The answer to that is yes. I think I showed you the slide from CBRE that CBRE is CB Richard Ellis. They're one of the real estate providers, right? Real estate companies in Asia. They see it, but I mean, they work mainly with global companies, multinationals. But I think the question is, do we see that in local companies and Asian companies? And what I would say is, I believe you will. And I think as a designer, if you understand that this is important, then this is a sort of approach that you should be considering. So rather than go into a client and say, what is it that you need? You can share ideas, you can do your research and share ideas on what is happening in the future of office design. So you will see much less fixed desks. And I think, if you talk to young people, as I said, somebody that's maybe less than 30 years old, and they're not going to be going and asking for a fixed desk necessarily. I mean, if you work in a department where a fixed desk is a next necessity, right, then fine. But I think the other thing we're seeing is that those sort of job roles are changing. A job role that requires somebody to sit at a desk all day is going to be obsolete in a few years' time. It's going to be replaced by technology. So, I mean, I think that's really what we're seeing, right? Your automation will take away whole departments within an organization, right? I don't think, call centers are probably a thing of the past, right? Because we've got bots these days. So you don't need a call center anymore, right? To deal with queries. You have there's a bot, a thing on the website that tells you, that answers your questions for you. And if you're in desperate trouble, you hang on the phone long enough, somebody will answer it, right? So I think that technology is transforming workplace, right? In much, much faster than we realize. And in order to do that, you don't need to provide seas of desks anymore. Yeah. And in fact, if you have an employer that's briefing you on a project and they say we've got 80 staff and we need 80 desks, and 40 of them are in finance and 40 of them are in something else, right? Then you should ask them, what are the plans for automation? how long will it be? How long will these people need a desk for? Or is it a case of how do we retrain these people? How are you planning to retrain these people when automation comes in? I mean, for argument's sake, if I can outsource, right, this function and save a headcount of 40, right, and for 10% of my cost or a quarter of my cost, I can put all that money into retraining these people to do something that is creating value for the company, right? So that's what you need to look at. So when you ask, is hybrid working a shift? The answer is yes, because jobs are changing. It's no longer job function based. Yeah. So it's an accelerating trend across all cultures and all disciplines. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. For
We
the
have the
last
last
question,
one.
Mangil. Yeah. Okay. So how would you convince clients to invest in the emotional and mental welfare of their workforce when their main concern is the bottom line? It also involves involvement with more health-related consultants to effects, space programming, and subsequently in design.
Yeah, great question, right? So
Yeah.
there's probably reports that will tell you that that will tell you how many days off sick people have in a sick building, right? So the first thing to do is to say, well, you know, first thing you need to do is make sure that when we are building this space, we build it in a way that doesn't make people sick, right? Because if we, you know, and we don't have to spend any more money doing it, right? A carpet that makes somebody sick and a carpet that that doesn't make somebody sick through VOC, maybe the cost isn't a huge difference, right? So why would we make those choices? So I think you have to be informed and you have to make those choices for clients. So where I'm coming here is that if you peel all these layers back, right? What are the things that you can do that don't have an impact on cost, right? So as a designer, what are the things that you can do that don't have an impact on cost? That's the first thing. So you do your part, right? And then the next part is, okay, Mr. Client, I understand that your bottom line is the biggest concern, right? So how do we make your people more efficient? How do we make these processes more efficient? Would it help us if we can create an environment where people can really concentrate on those really important tasks for the period of time that they need to concentrate on them for? So if you say, you know, you have a 2-hour session or a 3-hour session where the output needs to be measured in this way, make sure the lighting is right, make sure the environment is right, make sure that the workspace is right. And then the other whole idea comes through collaboration, right? So great ideas come about through collaboration, talking to people, through teamwork, through diversity. They don't come about by somebody sitting in a room on his own and trying to think of a great idea. Those days have passed. They used to happen maybe 100 years ago, but you know, nowadays it's realized you've got to build spaces for people to work in teams and create value that way. So that might not cost more money either, right? So you have to show evidence, right? And I think this is the whole rub with design, right? As designers, when we build a nice interior for somebody and it costs money to build, right? And we're going to, for instance, to appoint us to do the work and appoint the next person, it's a 50% difference in fees, right? How do I justify my fee? Can I show somebody that in this job, right, my last 3 jobs, by using the policies and the design ideas that we implement, we save, we reduce the number of man days sick. We I don't know, maybe 4 new businesses have emerged from the workplace, and actually their target was 2. I mean, you've almost got to go back to the business side and say to people, okay, for you, what worked, right? When we designed this office space in the past, what worked? And I mean, I do that. I mean, I have an interview, I have a procedure that I go through with my clients after we've finished the project, to go back and talk to them about where we succeeded and where we didn't succeed, and what maybe we need to change about our service, right? And what can we improve? And one of the things from my point of view would be, how do we come up with more data, right? How do we demonstrate that what we're talking about and what we're doing really improves the bottom line, right? So simple things to ask them, right? Is there a reduction in staff turnover? You know, you move from your old office to your new office. We created this space, it's healthier, people feel more comfortable in it, people are able to feel differently about the space. Has it improved staff turnover? If your goal was to get people back in the office, has it improved that? So that's that sort of data you can measure, right? But then you need to be, you're not just paid to do design work, you need to be a partner of your client. In other words, your process needs to be different, right? Earlier on, I talked about process. Our processes need to change. Yeah. So if we want to think differently about design and be more multidisciplined, if you like, and add more value, then our processes need to change. Yeah, that's how I would close that. Thanks. I hope I've answered your question. Actually, you can persuade clients to do things. You can persuade them to spend the money. I'll give you an example. I did last couple of years, I remodeled a nursing home. And one of the important things on this nursing home remodeling was to change the behavior of the staff and to change the behavior of residents. And one of the keys to this for me was to get rid of community bathrooms and provide individual bathrooms. So to do that, we did that in a nursing home with 300 residents. So we demolished and built 60 new bathrooms, and we changed the location of those bathrooms from being against the window, blocking out all the light, but of course, having ventilated bathrooms, to bringing the bathrooms inbound, using the daylight very differently, and putting in a solution to make sure that we've got the right environment within the new bathroom, right? And that it's changed everything about the home. If we hadn't made that decision and done that, and there was a big sum involved, right? So I have to stand in front of the board of directors and say, I stand by my decision. I believe if we don't do this, we may as well not do the project, right? It was that make or break. So yeah, and I go back to the home now and I walk around and I see people using the bathroom on their own, right? Because we've given them a bathroom that they can use independently, right? They don't have to wait till bath time anymore, okay? So clients can be persuaded, but you need to have a really sound reason for doing things. And I think the ideas I've given you in the presentation, I haven't given you all the answers, but the ideas I've given you maybe can get you thinking about some of these things and how you might want to present yourself in the future as a designer, especially in corporate work. Okay, thanks.
That's the end of all this set of questions, Kat. All right.
Yes.
So ahead, yes. For those who still have the questions, we cannot entertain anymore at this time, but maybe we can send that one to our secretariat. And if you can post that one here in our chat box, and we will get back to you, or rather we will send this to Nicolas for his answers, and then we'll send them back to him. Okay, so that at least they know that it was given attention. Thank you very much. And again, Nicolas, thank you very much for that insightful talk. And also, I would say that you have a very sensible and very strategic answers to all the questions that have been asked. So I do not know how to give you a big hand because we are online, but all I know is that there is such thing as what they call a virtual round of applause, and they do it this way. Yeah.
Thank you
So
very
thank
much.
you, thank you very much. Now it is time for us to award the certificate, and allow me to read this to you. This is the certificate of appreciation proudly presented to Nicholas Miro Smith for being distinguished speaker, guest, and imparting valuable insights during the APSDA webinar series entitled Healthy Interiors, the Future of Health, Well-being, and Workplace, held on 11th August 2022, signed by Professor Kit Ong, President, Asia Pacific Space Designers Association, or we call it APSDA. So there you are, Mr. Nicholas, and we are really so happy and grateful because you have graced this very special event for APSDA. Thank you very much.
So thank you too, and I would say good luck with your coming general meeting. General assembly.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
Have a good time. Have a great time.
Yeah, that's
and
going
maybe
to
this
be
is some of the topics you can discuss, right? So there you go.
really, yes. And that's going to be this coming September to be held in Bali. Yeah, and there are still many activities in store for us. To end this session, Kat, we have Ruhari, okay, our president, the president of the Indonesian Society of Interior Designers. Now, Ruhari heads also our committee on APSDA Committee on Professional Development, and together with him is Lutfi, but Lutfi is there. So you may now take the floor, Ruhari, for your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Liliana. Good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are in the Asia Pacific. I'm Rohadi. I'm a board member of APSDA, as well as the head of the Professional Development Department. This webinar we have just had by Mr. Nicholas Miro Smith is our first activity. Thank you to Mr. Nicholas, the APSDA Secretariat, and everyone involved as part of the professional competency development programs. We as interior designer must get update on the regular basis on what's the latest development in the world, especially related to technology, innovation, and how we live better and healthier. We hope to be able to continue doing activities like this webinar and discussion and collaboration that can progress our profession for everyone to have a better, healthier, and happier life through our profession. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rohari. And of course, this is an endless expression of gratitude. And for this afternoon, we learned a great deal. And so we hope that we will have again another of this session. And we also hope that we can have again Nicholas in some other time to share more insightful ideas, concepts, and particularly in designing workplaces, and address, of course, the most important concern at this point, which is the mental health of every individual in the workplace. Thank you very much, and see you again soon for another webinar. So again, let's do this one, a big hand for everyone, a virtual applause. All right. So thank you. That ends our webinar session. Can we have a picture taking? Everyone, please. You may now open your picture. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
In 3, 2, 1, smile. All right. Okay, Ken. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day.
Yes, you too.
Thank you,
Have a great
Nicholas.
day. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a
Catherine,
great
thank
day,
you.
everyone. Thank you, Sir
Yeah.